Welcome everybody to Caring Gents, episode 2.
That's right.
Here with my good friend Nick Howe. Not only did we get to do one episode, we somehow didn't mess up too much that our production team didn't break up with us, and we get to do a second episode.
Completely happy with that. I didn't think it was even possible.
Yeah, I mean, it was 50-50. I didn't know if we were going to make it.
No.
So, all right, man, it's good to see you.
Same.
Let's dig in on this one. What are we talking about after hopefully folks have seen the first episode? They know what we're trying to get across in this podcast, why we're here. Today is letting you know about our expertise, both professionally, personally, and why when you're listening to this, it's something that you can garner some really great information from. And at first, it's going to be you and me.
Yeah.
But then when people start to understand the experts and the SMEs that we have coming in these different channels of industry, of faith, sport, you just name it, that you're going to get introduced to some people that maybe don't get the mic on a bigger platform that are going to get the mic here.
Yeah.
And it's going to be special.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Nick, which you all heard his story at the beginning, like kind of, us sitting and him being at a place where we didn't know if he was going to make it, and he powers through that, and to hear what you've done with this opportunity in life to impact so many, I'll let you take it away.
Great introduction, Chris. And I am so fortunate to be sitting here right next to my good friend, Chris, to share with you the insight that we have been able to gain in life. That doesn't come cheap at all, because there's a lot of risk involved with these experiences, and the risk is whether you live or you don't. And so who would we be if we kept that to ourselves? I don't want to be that person. I want to share what experience I've had. And so some of the things you're going to hear, some of the things that I've been through, some of them being a first responder for 18 years and seeing traumatic injury, illness, you name it. I've seen it everywhere from pediatrics to geriatrics. And that was hard in itself, but I learned so much from their stories and their experiences. But then I had my own. And some of the topics we're going to speak on is going to be cancer. My background in cancer is a stage 3 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma survivor who took the risk with the clinical trial that made me enter remission. And I've been in remission for 7 years. Following that, I would have the effects of just going through really harsh treatments that when I would get a common cold would lead to affecting my heart. And therefore I would need a heart transplant. And so that was major organ transplant is no joke. That is very hard, very scary, and a journey in itself, and is one of the hardest things I've ever had to endure. But I didn't do it alone. I had a great team at the hospital. I had my wife, my family, my friends, Chris. I mean, so fortunate. But there'd be still complications from that. I would have really bad infections. I would have fluid in my lungs. I would have just nerve issues. And then I would have that same virus attack my new heart, which would then lead me to having a spinal stroke. And that was really hard. Being paralyzed from the waist down, having something you depended on for more than half your life, 37 years, and then that's gone. And then you deal with infections. Then the infections come in and got me almost. But multiple times, I would still come out on the other end, and I didn't know why. So I just took it for what it was, face value, and how can I provide these experiences to others through mentorship, mentoring patients through their journey. That started right after I entered remission, after my cancer diagnosis. And that was a 2-year fight. And as soon as I hit day 100, and I was like, all right, now I want to do philanthropy work, and I want to do as much as I can for this community. And then it would just continue to expand into major organ transplant community, to the disability community, like there's just no end. And there's so many people who need a voice, who need support. And that's what I hope we can do here, is provide our listeners just that.
Awesome, man. Awesome. I don't know if I've heard you tell it all the steps in one swoop. And I what I want to pause on with Nick's story, and what I've been lucky enough to be a part of, is the first time that I heard you speak at an event. You were standing on your own volition, and you had survived your cancer, right? And then all of a sudden, the next time I saw you, and this might have been because of COVID, right? Is we got separated, everybody, right?
Yeah, everybody got separated.
We all got separated. And the next time, talking to one of our good friends, is I had to find out that you were in a wheelchair. And, you know, you went through that because of the nature of this show, right? That we have to get through it. But what I'm going to press pause on is you made it through those times, one, because there was something, and namely, I think you found it inside of you to power through that.
Yeah.
But I think one really important thesis that's going to come out from this show is the power of friendship and the power of a really strong wife or love, maybe your
caregivers.
parents.
Your caregivers. Caregivers do not get enough recognition. And even on
Amen.
the topics that we're going to be discussing is going to hopefully provide caregivers with so much insight on how to support their patient.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing up that. Probably one of the most thankless things, right? There's some amazing non-for-profits out there that do amazing just, outreach events and support for caregivers. But thank you for bringing that up. But reminding people that, there is a way to find really great communities out there, whether it's, church, whether it's, finding something that you're just really interested in, as silly as it is, and being a part of that community. But I think watching you survive what you survived, I put a lot of credence on the people around you that were checking in, that were, and I just give Rachel, your wife, a ton of credit for that, right?
She needs a lot of credit. She'll never take it. But yes, she was my cheat code in surviving this.
Yeah. And I think too, don't take for granted the folks we have at home, right? I touched on that last time, and I'm taking my own medicine saying this because I think you found out, and I'm one of the busier people, and I don't say that in a braggadocious way. I need to find balance. That's one of the things I'm talking about, is we're both broken. We're all broken listening to this, but like finding those things we can get better at. And I'm talking to myself that not taking my wife for granted, not taking my kids for granted. And, having somebody that wants to spend time with you, right? Yeah. How many people do we meet that we've been called and said, I just need a conversation. And when I get to the bottom of it, they're lonely.
Yeah.
And it's maybe because they just haven't been lucky enough to find a partner in life. I'm sitting here, I have somebody that wants to hang out with me every day. Yeah. 3 little ones that,
you're their hero,
just want
man.
me to buy, maybe they just want me to buy him something sometimes, I think. But jokes aside, but I have 4 people that just want to be with me every day.
Yeah.
Right. And, just watching you survive what you survived, man, I think those folks that are in pain or going through a really troubling time, we're going to say it a lot. I can feel it. Reach out to us.
Yeah.
Right. We mean it.
Absolutely. And there's one thing, and I'm a fireman, so I take stuff lightly, but don't take offense, please. So one thing, when I was going through a major stem cell transplant, you're in the hospital for a month. It is very hard. And when I was in there, I kept, one of the firemen told me, like, you should always have something to look forward to. If you're sad, find a way. And if you don't have something to look forward to, order something and have something coming in the mail. Always have something to look forward to in life. And I hope that we can provide our listeners with an episode every week, something to look forward to.
I love it, man. I love it. Absolutely. We will. And we will. And we didn't talk about it in the intro, but these are going to be quick hits, right? This is going to be, you're walking your dog, you have that small commute, you can power through all of them, but every week we would just want to provide that quick hit. And I think the content too, the content that I've loved the most, right, and with some of the inspiration of us doing this as well, is I'll listen to some of these podcasts 3 or 4 times, or I'll be rewinding on this. It's like, I got to hear that again, right? Yeah. But they're going to be quick hits, right? One other thing that, you know, the expertise in what you got through, Nick, what I watched you get through is, as you were saying, those different challenges that you had, we don't know the next time that the storm's going to hit.
We don't.
Right?
Unfortunately.
Right?
We need to be as prepared as possible.
And make those lulls in the middle, make them all count, right? And I think in my career, I've seen enough death, I've seen enough strife, I've seen enough loss that's one thing I get asked a lot. Why just the helpless optimism? Why are you like this every day? Because I have listened to people my whole life, professional life, saying, if I could just make this knee not hurt anymore, if I could just walk again without a walker, and you know, and I'll get to it in a couple episodes, but the power of perspective over perception.
Yes. That
power
is huge.
Of perspective, of that there is somebody not that far away from me that is having a worse day than I am. Yeah. And they don't have something that I wish I had. And I'm not talking about big monetary, simple things, right? Simple things.
You can, like, I always kept in mind, like, my situation, especially when I was first paralyzed, when that occurred, that I went to sleep feeling my legs, and I woke up not feeling my legs. And that moment, knowing my career that I absolutely loved, helping others, my brothers and sisters that were in the service, it was such a big part of my life and who I was as a person. It was my identity. Being a father, what I thought was what I pictured me being as a father. Very able-bodied, all the things, all of that. I loved carpentry. I loved working on my house. I loved climbing ladders. I loved being on the roof. I loved so many things that took my legs to do. That was gone. I felt like my whole life was ripped, and I was the shell laying in that bed.
How many years ago was that?
That would be 3 years ago. And it was tough. And but what I looked out my window when I was in the hospital, and I seen this kid in a wheelchair having the time of his life.
There it is.
Having the time of his life. And he was maybe 8 years old. Having the time of his life. He would go super fast and then grab his wheels and skid. Loved it. And just cracking up. And he was so happy every day I saw him go by my room. Or I would see him in the hall. Or he'd be outside my room on the sidewalk. So happy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, here I am, 37 years with my legs.
That's perspective.
Perspective. You can always have more, but you can always have less.
Man. Dude, that's amazing, man. Yeah. That is amazing. And one thing that's really important that you said there too, that I see us struggling a little bit with, I think a lot bit as humans right now, is our ability to be observant. If you were staring down at your phone, or if you didn't take the time to observe, you don't see that 8-year-old.
We forget to look around.
Just be observant.
Yeah.
And God bless the tools we've been given, right? The cell phone's incredible, right? And I don't mean to beat on that, right? It's an amazing tool, but I think this closing the doors and isolating ourselves, gosh, that example is so good, that you looked out that door or window and you see that kid having the utmost joy, and you're like, bam, I've had 4 of the lives that he has had, and I was fully mobile. But you don't get that if you shut down, right?
No, and it's so easy to do. And I did. I had my bad days. I had my really bad days. I had days where my wife was staring at me and just tell me, because I have resting smiley face.
I didn't know that.
So I smile doesn't mean I'm necessarily happy.
Did not know that.
But she goes, and this was like one of the most heartbreaking moments of our marriage. And her going, you just don't smile anymore. I don't see my Nick anymore. And that crushed me. And I didn't know what to do. I had no words. I had no plan, and I had no way forward. And I thought that I think the time is near. That I think I'm close. I think this is it for me. And
like leaving this world?
Leaving this world. I think this is it. And we're even going to touch on mental health, because as many challenges as I've had, mental health has been there. And there's a very dark side, whether it's through medications that take you there, your just abilities take you there, what you had don't have anymore takes you there. There's so many things that take you there that you can't control. But what you can control is who you talk to, reach out to those professionals, and ask for help.
Yeah.
Asking for help is step one.
And we can help you get there.
We can help you get there.
We can help you get there if you need it. No, that's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. As you close this show out, I think hopefully you can see Nick's expertise in what he's been through and all of the gambits of life and, different communities that he's been involved with. And my background is challenges in the medical space, namely navigating care. I've spent a lot of time in the home healthcare space, the nursing, the PT, the OTs, speech therapists, social workers, CNAs. I can't even remember if caregivers was this episode. There's been a lot in this episode.
There has.
But sending those clinicians and working in those clinicians and being one of those clinicians and going into the home, but hearing the stories about how challenging it can be to navigate our medical community. And even though the miracle workers that we have with all the physicians and nurses and therapists and social workers and administrators that run these amazing facilities, it can be really challenging as a family member, as a patient. So that's one area that Nick and I have partnered up over the last several years.
It is.
Saying that people were stuck. And then the other thing that, we were talking, getting ready for the show, that mentoring folks that have always wanted to start a new business. So I've been lucky enough to be surrounded with really great mentors, and I'm 45 years old, so getting long in the tooth.
You're looking great for 45.
Yeah, getting long in the tooth a little bit. The gray's showing up, but I've been lucky enough to start or help start right around 10 new businesses, and now I'm mentoring folks that have always wanted to start a new business, but they didn't know how. They're great at sales, but they couldn't necessarily operate, or they didn't know how to put the numbers together and the financials. But what I'm getting at is, if there's something that folks are really passionate about and they really want to go after it, I'm available for that conversation. Yeah. And I'm pleased to say, helped, probably a dozen folks or so just push the yes button. Stop looking at it.
It's huge because
Stop
it's a barrier.
At it. Just do it.
It's a major barrier.
Yeah.
So many people have passions. Everyone has a passion. But how do they hone in on that passion to make it to what they do every day and enjoy?
You know what I think it boils down to? Is somebody that believes in them.
Yeah.
Somebody,
absolutely.
And maybe they didn't have the network, or maybe they did, and that's just not the relationship that they have with their parents or with their spouse or whoever. But the other thing you're going to see on this show is you have one person that believes in you. If your strategy makes sense, right? I'm not going to let you walk into something that it's going to make things worse for you. But if you can make something make sense, right? And you find one person that believes in your idea, then you can do just about anything, right? Absolutely.
And that is a natural progression on what we're going to be talking about, because now you get on the other side of your struggle, your hardship. Now what? now you may not have an identity. In my case, I didn't have an identity. I didn't know who Nick Howe was anymore because that was gone. And I had to find purpose again, because having purpose feeds that positivity in your life and keeps you out of the darkness.
Yep.
And that is where this naturally flows, is I'm on the other side of this hardship. Now what?
Yep. Yep.
And
how simple finding purpose can be. It doesn't have to be Mount Everest. It doesn't have to be this crazy thing. It be the
Not
simple thing. So, brother, great show.
100%, man.
Everybody out there, we'll see you on the next one. We've done 2.
We've done 2.
We haven't messed up too bad too yet.
Not at all.
Thanks everybody.